Shalom and praises be to Yah our Abba. We come giving honor and glory to the Most High. We're glad to be here with you on this Shabbat Shalom. We are going to fellowship and continue to pick up where we left off in the last episode. We are glad this day. I'm going to say greetings to all our brothers and sisters, and particularly those who have a platform for Israel. You are being used to awaken our brothers and sisters, letting them know that indeed we are Israel. So at this time, without further ado, I'd like to go in and with all the greetings of the last episode, I'm going to go into our particular passage. We're looking at magnify the birthright, O Israel. Magnify the birthright, Israel. Magnify the birthright. Of course, we looked at, last time we studied, we were looking at the brothers Esau and Jacob. And we looked at how Esau did not have respect for the prophet of the birthright that was rightly his. So in light of that, it was Jacob who had respect for the birthright, and he took the birthright in. So he bought the birthright from his brother, but the birthright, the rights to that was already in his heart. Not realizing that it was predestinated and foreordained before time and eternity. Actually, so his mother shared that with him before they were born, he and his brother. So since he was predestinated, regardless of the circumstance and situation that may have surrounded that birthright, the rightful heir was the one that received it. But before we go to Genesis, I'd like to look at a passage in Malachi chapter 1. And I will start at verse 1. It says, "The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, said the Lord. Yet you say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord," that is Adonai. "Yet I have loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom," which of course his name was changed to Edom, "said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord has indignation forever." See, Esau tried to step around that birthright that he sold to his brother rightly. The brother did a very good business negotiation. If you ever had to deal in business when it came to contracts and negotiation, you always go for the better deal. And his brother Jacob knew that this birthright meant everything. Now in verse 5 it says, "And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, the Lord will be magnified from the border of Israel." The Lord will be magnified from the border of Israel. So Yahweh Shai, through this lineage, came by promise. That is, for the birthright was the signature of that promise. And with the birthright as a signature, this also secured the areas of Israel that we know today. That is the Golan Heights and the West Bank and the Gaza Strip that surround the very place we know and we call. And Jerusalem and Bethlehem and those cities on the outskirts are protected because even to this day, Israel has an army surrounding those areas. But those people who are in Israel are not, quote unquote, the historical people that are the ancient Israelites. And so Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9, Revelation chapter 3 as well, and verse 9 states very clearly that in these last times, these things, of course, will take place. But a promise was given. A promise was given to Israel, and we're going to look at several things here that led to that promise. One, I would like to turn to Genesis, for one, I should say, Genesis chapter 25. Genesis chapter 25. And I believe we do have a designated reader. My beautiful wife, Susan, who's going to read that. We're going to start with a verse in Genesis chapter 25. I'm going to look at verse 28.
And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
So the favor of Esau was towards Isaac. Isaac favored Esau, and Rebekah loved Jacob. Isaac loved Esau, and Rebekah loved Jacob. Read on, my dear.
And Jacob sighed pottage.
Mm-hmm.
And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
So that's when Esau's name was changed to Edom, and as well as his generation. Esau's name was changed to Edom, and Edom's responsibility and obligation from the Lord was to take care of his brother throughout all generations. His generations were to provide and support and to secure the safety of Jacob with that promise. Read on.
And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Esau despised his birthright. Esau had no regard or profit for a birthright that was given to him freely, the older brother, and for him to enjoy and to go on in life carrying a heritage. But he refused that. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. And you see the relationship here, it's very clear. There's a passage I want to relate to that in Psalms chapter 5 and verse 5. In the book of Psalm chapter 5 and verse 5. Could you read that for us? Yeah. Also, too, this particular situation with the older brother, it kept the family with a good outdoorsman. I'll say a good outdoorsman, but not a very good businessman with a promise that came from Yahweh that would last forever. Read on.
The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hate all workers of iniquity.
So we can conclude from two passages already that the Lord that you call him is Yahweh does not love everybody. The Almighty is not embracing everybody. And in a lot of the evangelical moves, that is a word that God loves everybody. And they use John 3:16 as the parenthetical scripture that they take out of the passages of scripture, and they don't read the whole thing about the relationship of Israel to this particular passage. When he says he so loved the world, he's speaking in terms of Olam from age to age, and he's not talking about Tabel like he is in John chapter 17, verse 9. He says, I pray not for the world, and he's speaking about Tibel. That is the world that has separated itself and have come into his creation world illegally. And, I'm not going to get into the angels cast out and, those who were on the earth saw daughters and took wives. So that's pretty much where we were here. But we look back in Genesis once again. In the book of Genesis, the relationship was that in Rebekah there were two manner of people. There were two manner of people. Now, magnifying the birthright is vitally important. But if you look at what was said about these two manner of people in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 22 and 23, and it says, and the children struggled together with her. The children struggled together with her. That's Rebekah, Isaac's wife. And verse 22. This is Genesis chapter 25 and verse 22. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? Like, why are these children struggling with me? Why? Or what's going on with me, I should say. I'm, getting ahead of myself. What's going on with me? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So you see right there, the very voice of the Almighty made it clear that the elder is going to provide for the younger, even at the time we live in. There's many careers that some say they can't get into, but we have someone making our cars for us, building our houses for us, doing the agriculture, keeping the water clean and safe, giving us fresh air on a regular basis without, gas emissions and things of that nature. And, we pretty much are pretty well intact in terms of being physically healthy. So we see as we take a look that it is important to understand and know that somebody has to work and do those jobs that for the most part that we ourselves are not in. And that would be Esau. Thank you, Esau. We're glad that you are fulfilling your mission in working for us. Someone turn to Matthew chapter 11 and verse 27. Matthew chapter 11 and verse 27. Now we're going to look at something that strongly relates here. And I'm going to share something with you at this particular time to show you that it is Israel's blessing to magnify the birthright. That's Israel's blessing. Our blessing as a nation, as a people, as well as a culture, is to enjoy the benefit and the blessing of the call. Our daddy got that for us. Somebody look at Matthew chapter 11 and verse 27. Read that for us, please.
What verse?
27. 11:27.
All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man know the Son, but the Father knew. Neither knew any man the Father save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Now, worldwide, there's a culture of people who purely were just laborers, worked at labor jobs. Very few, they call it bell curve or tokens, that did not work labor work. I worked labor work when I was in my teens, and I know what it was like, to be out in the sun all day for the most part. I didn't do it for years, but, I had the taste experience between, summer times. So look at the book of Sirach, chapter 12. And to show you why it's important to magnify the birthright, we have Esau to work on our behalf. In Sirach, chapter 12, and I'll start at verse 4. It says, give to the godly man, give to the man of Yahushua, and help not a sinner. It says, give to a righteous man, and help not a sinner. It says, hold back thy bread, and give it not unto him, lest he overmaster thee thereby. You know, you have folks a lot of times who are on, in many cultures, different types of psychotropic narcotics. And, you know, you try to reach out personally to help them, and what happens is you find yourself in a debacle, I'll say that, not realizing that the strength of that other side has on pulling on the good nature of those who are reaching out to someone who is in deep, desperate, and dire trouble. But it was this culture's call to serve us, O Israel. And verse 6 says, for the Most High hates sinners. The Most High hates sinners. I guess that would just put a pin in the balloon. That God just loves everybody. That pops the bubble. For the Most High hates sinners, the scripture says. In Sirach chapter 12 and verse 6, that's Ecclesiasticus chapter 12 and verse 6. It says, for the Most High hates sinners and will repay vengeance unto the ungodly, and keep them against the mighty day of their punishment. It says, give unto the good and help not the sinner, verse 7. So you understand that one loved one son and the other another. But the scriptures conclude that the one who hated the covenant, you got people in the world today, O Israel, who hate your covenant. They know who you are. They hid this from you. And simultaneously, it was Yahweh that preserved and kept us by keeping us in the Babylonian captivity, bringing us back into Egypt on ships, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, and covering us with the eagle that will be protected. I want someone to look at John chapter 17. I'm going to conclude on this side. John chapter 17. I want to share something with you after we go here. John chapter 17 and verse 9. John 17 and verse 9. And in that passage, we're going to look at something very relative here.
I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me.
So I pray not for the world. I pray for them, but I pray not for the world. Now understand, we got to get on understanding. It's good that he clarifies that. But now there's something that's magnified. And I want to take a second or two, if I can, to look at the ruling class that's over pretty much us where we are now. The ruling class that's over us in the world. As we magnify the birthright, excuse the sloppy artist handwriting here. As we magnify the birthright, we look at the term in Hebrew, and it is lamed, hey, gamel, dalid, and yod, and then we go to, once again, lamed. I'm going to write this down so you see. I'm going to use the teragons, those the marks, the dots, okay, to tell you where we are, because if it were not for that, we would not be able to say this word at all, okay? That's the little dots here, the shapes and sheaves, shivas, and all that stuff. So the lamed, as you see it, the lamed is a Hebrew coefficient number for the number 20. I'll put 20 under here. Lamed is the Hebrew coefficient for 20. The word lamed means to magnify. And hey, I'm going to draw the thing up here where this is the shepherd's staff. Lamed is a shepherd's staff. I'm going to draw a little shepherd's staff. And hey would look like a man jumping up, shouting and praising. A man jumping up, shouting and praising. Hey has the coefficient number 5. Hey has the coefficient number 5. I hope you can see it. So then there's Gamel. Now, what's interesting and important in the number, in this particular number 3, is that many misconstrued the number. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you, because Israel has a birthright, and this birthright was given to us by our daddy. But Gamel is very clearly, I'm going to get this right here. I want you to have this. In the Hebrew writing, I'm going to tell you what it means, because you're going to be surprised. It's the 4th, Gamel. It's the 4th, okay? So Gamel is the number 4. I'm going to put this down when I get that correct. The number 4, this coefficient of 4. Then we have Daled, which from the right to the left, okay? We have Daled. I'm doing this. I'm telling you, I want to make sure this is right. We got 5 here, and we got Gamel here, okay? And Bayat, which is 2. So now we got these numbers that coincide together. What these say is this: the earth begotten against, it says the earth begotten magnified. That is, the world would be against Jacob in the last times. That ancient writing says, okay? Even with its pictographs, this is block form writing. I'm saying it real fast. But it's important to understand that with this magnification, it's what Israel's doing, gathering our people together in the last times. We're building the nation, which we are called to in the times in which we are in right now. Now, I want to go to, if you help me out here, I want to take a look at, I don't know, we didn't go to Romans chapter 8, did we? Romans chapter 8. Okay, Romans chapter, we're going to go there. We're going to go to Romans chapter 8 and verse 29. Dip, could you read that for us?
Mm-hmm. Verse 9?
Romans chapter 8 and verse 29. Romans 8:29.
For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate.
So for he whom he what? Foreknow, okay? He did predestinate. The word predestinate means set on a destiny before the destiny started. Set on a destiny before the destiny started. Predestinate means set in motion before the motion starts. Predestinate. All right, read on. Talking about magnifying the birthright.
To be conformed to the image of his son.
Okay, so Barashi is from his creation, but the Barabayet, okay, Hashamayim, okay, to Barakut, to the earth, his son, okay, to conform to the image of his son. Okay, read on.
That he might be the firstborn among many brethren.
Okay, now, somebody read Ephesians chapter 1. Ephesians chapter 1, starting in verse 1. We're going to read a few passages there. Could you read that for us, dear sister? Ephesians chapter 1. Ephesians chapter 1. That's okay. Take your time, because, we want those who share this information also reach out to us and subscribe, and to work with us on the algorithms, because we do need your attention. We're so glad that you have come to this platform, and we appreciate you, O Israel, my brothers and sisters who are getting this message out to our brothers and sisters of Yahudah, and we're grateful that Israel is waking up. We're looking at this particular passage of scripture. If somebody's there in Ephesians chapter 1,
Verse
okay, start reading in verse 1, please.
Paul, an apostle of Yeshua Christ, by the will of Yah, to the saints which are at Ephesus, and to the faithful in Christ Yeshua. Grace be to you, and peace from our Yah, our Father, and from the Elohim, Yeshua Christ. Blessed be the Yah and the Father of our Lord, Yeshua Christ, who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings.
So you see what Daddy Jacob got in that promise? He has blessed us, say it again, with what?
Heavenly weights, with spiritual blessings.
With all.
All spiritual blessings.
Okay, read on.
In heavenly places in Christ, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yeshua Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will.
Okay, now, since we are lifting up our birthright, okay, as Yaqub, you need to understand that Yaqub's name was changed. We're going to go there in a minute. But we also want to be mindful to understand that as a nation, we have each other's back. We are here, as we read the righteous portions here, for us to understand that we are being conformed into his image based on predestination. Based on predestination. Now, I know we spoke about spiritual, because the spiritual is the second part of the natural or physical call. We, as physical flesh and blood, bone of his bone, and flesh of his flesh, the generation of our family, Jacob, Israel, we now have the benefit with the commandments and the law to follow the ordinances with a new direction, because that law has been completed by our Hamashiach. Are y'all understanding this? So now that it's been completed, okay, now that it's been completed, we are looking at where the natural abundant benefits came from. Now, I want you to see something, and I'm going to look at this real quick. Look at Genesis chapter 31. Now, I want to show you what Jacob did. It's something that Jacob did with his wife and his children. I'm going to skip ahead, and I might go back a little bit, here a little, there a little, and we're looking at Genesis chapter 31. And I'm going to just read a few passages. Starting in verse 1, it says, and he heard the words of Laban's sons. This is Yaakov, this is Jacob. He heard the words of Laban's son. Remember, he had worked for years because he fell in love with Rachel. That was his wife, the Lord promised. And yet Laban said, no, you're going to marry Leah first. Interesting, isn't it? Because Leah was the oldest sister. And the promise was always, of course, the birthrights were always to the oldest child. Now, here we go. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Yaakov, or Jacob, hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. Now, if you know anything about first fruits, if you're magnifying the birthright with us, and you know anything about first fruits, this is the first time in Genesis chapter 31 and verse 1 that the word glory appears in the Torah. That's the first time ever that the word glory appears in the Torah. The word glory in its appearance with the birthright of Jacob. Remember, Jacob was scarce when he started out on his adventures. His mother sent him out into Laban because they were relatives to find his wife. And he came empty-handed, but he left with all that he had worked and earned. And so here the word glory reflects on material things. Are y'all seeing this? Glory is directly connected to cattle, crop, goats, sheep, horses, chariots, wives, children, and his sons call this glory. The Hebrew word for glory is vachara. It's vachara. That's the Hebrew word for glory. It's vachara. And the word glory often comes with the word power. Remember, the promise was given to Yaakov by dad, and he received it because he purchased it from his brother who did not want the birthright. The scripture said he hated the birthright, we just read. And because he hated the birthright, he lost it and then later thought that somehow he could do things to get it back. Remember his son Eliphaz. Remember we went over the passages of Eliphaz and how Eliphaz met up with Job and he went to see what Job's plight was and he tore his clothes and he cried for Job. It was Esau's son. But the Edomites, all that they did and all that they had and possessed, could not get that birthright back not because it was just given to Yaakov, but predestination was designed for him to have it. Now, when we speak about predestination, there's one particular thing I would like to look at, and I want you to see. I think if I can get this as close as I possibly can to the camera. Now, this portion right here of predestination, we're looking at the word glory is v'hakara, and that means things. And, in our denominational churches, often, they say give God the glory during praise. And when they say give God the glory, they say give God the glory. People run up and down the aisles and they scream and they holler and they, jump or run around the benches and they flip up, I don't know, in the air, everything they can do, I'm guessing. So, I've been in evangelical and Baptist churches. When they say give God the glory, and then when it comes time to give God an offering, everybody vanishes. You see the finger going up, slave finger goes up. And they're out of there. And they don't realize that according to the scripture, the first time the word glory, first fruits, is right there in your Torah. It's in Genesis chapter 31 verse 1. Now, with that, magnifying Israel, I want to show you something that might be interesting to you. With the word here, we call birthright. Now, the Hebrew alphabet is Bayet, which means house. And it shows a picture of the sun inside the house as Bayet. The dots and tittles are Hebrew writings, and it's the Kaf, which comes right after that, or Kaf, okay, that comes right behind that. Then you have the Vav, or the spike, that has a dot. I'm not going to put the jots and tittles. Then there's Resh, which is the head of a man. Then there is Hay, which what we just went over, which signifies praise. So Bayet would look like a maze, like this, almost like the number 9 upside down. And Kaf would be a hand, okay? Would be a hand. And this particular thing is a spike, and it's called a vav, like a spike or nail. And this is Resh, it would be the head of a man. The head of a man. This is in Hebrew pictographic writing. Hay, as we said once before, it looks as if a person is jumping up and down in praise. I'm going to bring it as close as I possibly can. So in context to Genesis 25, we're looking at this word in the Hebrew is bekara. The word is bekara. The word is bekara. And what bekara means, if you look up the word korah or korah in Hebrew, it means bald. B-A-L-D. B-A-L-D. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second, and I'm going to go back to Genesis. Go turn back with me to Genesis. Okay? After the Lord told her that there were two people struggling in her womb, okay? And in verse 25 of Genesis chapter 25, it says, and the first came out red, okay? And the first came out red. And when her days were to be delivered, she fulfilled this behind and said, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red, and red all over. It says, like a hairy garment. Do you see that? Like a hairy garment. Now, the first came out red, like a hairy garment. But here in the Hebrew, when it uses the term birth right, it has in its initial form bald. Okay, now stay with me a moment. And so his hair, he was hairy all over, Esau was, and he was red. It said they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Now, my question is to the theologian, if they went out of their way to describe Esau and what he looked like, why didn't you just go out of your way and describe Jacob and what he looked like? There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Because Jacob was the bald one. We're talking about birthright. Jacob was the bald one. You see? No hair. He's a newborn baby. No hair. So the bayet, which deals with the B in bald, kaf, and al, dalit, resh, and hay, and praise. But look at this right here. I want to take this second right now. The word bayet is the son in his house. Show you how the scriptures in Isaiah 49, I believe it's verse 9, says, well, where the Lord calls the end from the beginning. We're in Genesis now, chapter 25. The bayet represents the son in his house. The son in his house, or the head in his house. Then kaf means his hand extends from the home. His hand extends from the home. Then there's this metal rod that his hand reaches out towards. Are y'all seeing this? His metal rod where his hands reach out to. And then his rest, once again, the head of the situation. And behold, the word right here, hey, is behold. Behold. So in other words, the son comes out with his hand, reaches for this rod, a scepter, reaches for this rod, a scepter. And with that scepter, relating to this particular promise that was given to me and you, O Israel, relates to something that I would love for you to see as we look at the magnifying of this particular place. I would like for someone, I'm going to ask to read Isaiah chapter 9. And I want someone else to read Jeremiah 30. Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7. Well, I'm going to stick with the passages because I really would like for everyone to grasp as much as we possibly can. For all of you who are watching this and recording, you could go back over and then get the spaces where you are. In Isaiah chapter 9, the prophet Isaiah says something very interesting in verse 6 and 7. Could you read that for us?
And all the people shall know, even Ephraim, and the inhabitant of verse 9? Chapter 9,
verse 6.
Oh, 6.
Verse 6. That's all right.
All right.
So,
for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders.
Okay, so where this thing right here says birthright, a child is born. A son, see, is given. Okay, now, can somebody pick up from there, please?
And the government shall be upon his shoulders.
And the government. There was a time when they talked about government cheese and government spam and government bread and government milk and government ham and all this other stuff. everything that can give you all the high blood pressure you need to get and to shortchange your coming days. Very dangerous. But the government, read that again, my dear.
And the government shall be upon his shoulder.
Keep reading.
And his name shall be called Wonderful.
This is the part of the birthright. Keep going.
Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
So the mighty Yah was shy. That is the son. The mighty Yah was shy. Okay? Will come out of his house. This is what how you spell birthright in Hebrew. That is Hebrew block form and Hebrew pictograph. Hebrew block form and Hebrew pictograph. Humbly, I bring this before you in love. Now, we know that we love him, we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous to us. The Bayet shows his authority in Jacob. This is a promise in the birthright. This is a promise written in Hebrew, a promise that we see the interpretation speaks of a future promise, a future king, a future reigning people. You are royalty. You are the elect. Did you read verse 7? Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 21. Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 21. I'd like for somebody else to get, if you can, find Zechariah chapter 9 and verse 9. We're looking at magnifying the birthright, O Israel. Magnifying. You're looking at Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 21. Jeremiah chapter 30. Now, here, as you can see, this depicts very clearly a predestinated promise to a people of color that is going to receive that promise at one point in full. The scripture is very clear. This is the promise given to us, ordained in the hands of elders, and spoken by the Almighty himself. Okay? So in Jeremiah, is right after Isaiah, in Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 21, listen to what that one verse says. What it does is it relates to the other 3 or 4 that we had. Read.
And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governors shall proceed from the midst of them. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is that engage his heart to approach unto me, saith the Lord.
So look at what the Almighty says. Governors. We're talking about government. So Jacob or Jacob wasn't just a one-man band. He had a future promise for you, for us, Israel, as a nation to deal with government in order to magnify this birthright that was rightly given to us, to all the tribes worldwide scattered. Okay, does anybody have Zephaniah? Zephaniah. I may have said Zechariah. Zephaniah chapter 9. Zephaniah chapter 9. While somebody's looking up Zephaniah chapter 9, I want somebody else to look at Revelation 1:6. Zephaniah chapter 9 and verse 9. There's a little bit to unpack here, but I'm certain we're going to get through. Because I really want you to digest this. Zephaniah chapter 9 and verse 9. Read aloud for us, please. The birthright. Bet Kaf Vav Resh He. Zephaniah. Zephaniah is minor prophet. Zephaniah basically speaks, it's the same principle, okay? What I would like to do is with, who's in Zechariah? Raise your hand. Who's in Zechariah? Okay, stay there. Go to Zechariah chapter 12 for us. If you're in Zechariah, go to Zechariah chapter 12. We'll skip ahead, that's fine. Because I want to show the difference in Olam and Tebel. It's important to understand from the Shemaim that the son who is rested in Be'et, that is, remember Yeshua HaMashiach said that in my father's house are many mansions. He said, well, that were not so, I would have told you. He said, I'll go away to prepare a place for you. He said, so that where I am, you shall be also. So the relationship here is that Yaakov set out on an adventure, a journey for his life and the life of each and every one of us. And when he saw the birthright, and he obtained, his journey began in obedience. His journey began in obedience. He rightly so received, and we rightly so enjoy. Israel, you should be enjoying yourself. I love when Israel says, oh, we went to the islands, and, I love cruises because it's important to understand that at night it's so ominous. It's dark, there's no lights, and you're sitting, port bow, looking down at the waters while, the cruise ship is just moving very rapidly, towards shore. It's very, very relaxing. Israel should be enjoying the covenant. That's, my wife and I, that particular time. So, are we there yet? Zechariah chapter 12 and verse 2, starting verse 2.
Behold, I make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered against it.
So excuse me 1 minute, I want you to go on. So notice, all of the people in the earth are against this one culture of people. Now I'm going to ask you a question. You're intelligent. You understand, and you read and you discern and you watch things and you learn. And you've lived long enough to understand practical things, Israel, what culture of people do you know in the world that the whole world, in any country, in any culture, anywhere you go, that is against that one culture? This is the other question. Show me another culture, show me culture 2, where the whole world is against culture 2, because culture 2 doesn't exist. There is a culture in the world, in the entire world, on every continent, where every culture is against that one culture. And I don't need to say anything more. All right, read on. I need you to read on.
And in that day I will make, I'm at 4.
That's okay.
In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness. And I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in the Lord of hosts. There you are.
Okay, so here the Lord of hosts is with us. He's with us. Here's the covenant promise that we have. This now you think about all that one culture that's been decimated, attacked, and all types of mechanisms and gadgets have been brought together for this one culture to annihilate. In Genesis chapter 28, I'm going to read a few passages of a dream that Yaakov had. And this is a few passages in Genesis chapter 28, starting verse 12. And he dreamed. He fell asleep. He sent his family over the brook of Jabbok, and he laid down to take a nap. And he dreamed. Okay, he told Jacob not to marry a Canaanite woman. His brother married some a little bit of everything. Okay, but he told him not to marry a Canaanite woman. He made it very clear: do not marry a Canaanite woman. Verse 12 says, that skips down. Verse 12 says, he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And look, or behold, the angels of Yah ascending and descending on it. And behold, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am, or if Yah, the Adon Yah, Yahweh Shah, Abriah. That is, I am the Lord your Yah of Abraham, thy father, the Yah of Isaac or Isaac, and the land wherein thou liest, to thee will I give it. He didn't say you had to work for it. He didn't say you had to toil for it. He didn't say you had to sweat for it. He said, this is yours. I'm giving you Jerusalem. I'm giving you Israel. This is your land. And to thy seed, that's how I know it's me. That's how I know it's you. Okay, to thy seed. Verse 14. It says, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. America would not have been the Western world on eagle's wing or Israel if it had not been for the labor force of free labor in this nation for every agricultural or aggregate thing. And even our own heritage owned our own people on farms and exercised maybe a different type of favor with them because you're looking in the mirror when you're looking at your own people. Okay? He says in verse 15, he says, all the families of the earth be blessed. Verse 15, he said, and behold, I am with you and will keep thee in all places wherever you go. I'm with you. That's why this same culture of us, if you look in every country in the world, you take a look at any one of us, we all look like this. We're light, we're brown, we're dark brown, we're same culture. Our African brothers and sisters said there were no Africans transported. That's another subject I don't get in. And look what he says. He said, wherever you go, he says, we'll bring you again into this land. I'm going to bring you wherever you go. I'm still going to bring you back to where I promised. For I will not leave you until I have done that which I have spoken to thee. Now, here's the promise given to Yaakov, given to Jacob. And I want you to quickly look over, turn to Genesis. Okay, I want you to do this real quick. Turn over to Genesis. And I want to look at Genesis chapter 31 and verse 15. It says, and it says, are we not counted of him strangers? It says, for he hath sold us. This is Jacob's wives. He has sold us. Talking about their daddy. And hath quite devoured also our money. So when the promise was given, it didn't tell you to run after the stuff. It made the promise very clear that these promises were amended by Yahweh for his people. Genesis chapter 32. It says, then thou shalt say, they be thy servant Yaakov. This is what he's going to say when his brother comes. We passed all of that, okay? Okay, now, he took his two wives and he took them over to Jabbok. This is the run from his brother. And while they go across the shores of Jabbok, which means pouring out. Jabbok means pouring out in Hebrew. SHABBAT means pouring out. It says, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him. This is a struggle. I'm going to start at verse 24. This is Genesis chapter 32, verse 24. And Yaakov was left alone. This is after he sent his family and his cattle and all his stuff away. I'm going to show you the promise. I need y'all to stay with me for a moment. And there wrestled a man with him until breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Yaqub's thigh was out of joint. And he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go, except you bless me. Notice the life of Jacob. Jacob has a life of blessing. Everywhere he goes, he blesses someone. Everywhere he goes, he blesses someone. Now he goes on to say, once he says, let me go, he said, I'm going to let you go except you bless me. This is the man he's wrestling with all night long. And he said unto him, what is your name? And he said to Yaqub, he said, what is your name? And Jacob said, my name is Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob. No longer will you have the name Jacob, but Yesreel, or Israel. For as a prince hast thou power over Yah and with men, and hath prevailed. That's interesting and powerful. Do you see this covenant that we're in? And if you don't feel nothing by now, you ought to know what you just read in your covenant. No longer are you Jacob, but you are Israel. And here you are, Israel. For a prince hast thou power with the Almighty. As a prince, you have power with Yahweh Shah. As a prince, you have power with Yah. As a prince, you have power with Yah and power with men. And you have already past tense prevailed. I don't think y'all hear me here. I'm going to skip down. It says, and Yaqub asked him and said, tell me, I pray you, thy name. And he looked at him and he said, why do you want to know my name? Or wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? What does it matter? And he blessed him there. Notice what Israel blessing. Israel blessing. Israel blessing. Israel blessing. Israel promise. So this word that we have here, blessing, promise, is written in a birthright promise from the Almighty, predestinated, foreordained, with a foreknowledge. You see, the sun comes out. Okay, now, real quickly, I gave you passages. The word here for barakah, or barak, or baruch, is here. Now, if I add these dots and chills, I put 2 dots down here, 1 in the center. I'm going to add a dot over the cough. The bed has 3 dots. I'm adding 1 over top of the cough, 1 over top of the cough, 1 over top, 2 at the bottom of beds, 1 on the inside, a dot inside bed, right here where the iron scepter is. We just read it. I put a dot at the top of the scepter. Now it is a scepter indeed, a ruling scepter. I'm going to put underneath of it, it looks like the letter T. And it's a gamma. It's a gamma. The Hebrew word, when the Talmudian priests changed the writing so that you could speak it, they added vowels to the consonants. These letters are aleph bet, but they're all consonants. And in order for you to pronounce the word in Hebrew, you need the dots and the tittles in order to use them as vowels to pronounce the words. Now, the word here for birthright is barak, a type of praise. The word baruch, as in the Apocrypha, is a blessing. Here we go again, Israel. Israel is a blessing. The original Israel, not the Israel of Revelation chapter 3 and verse 9, Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9, not the other Israel, but you, us, the original Israel, is a blessing. The Hebrew word with the jots and the tittles means barak, a blessing. Bekorah is the Hebrew pronunciation, means a blessing. The text in 25:29, Bekorah, be Korah, be the blessing. Are you with us? Oh, Israel. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a second. We're going to have to do this. I need somebody to read Micah chapter 1 and verse 16 and Amos chapter 8 and verse 10. Micah, M-I-C-A-H, chapter 1. Micah chapter 1 and verse 16. And I'm going to need someone to read Amos chapter 8 and verse 10. And we're going to have to continue this because this is juicy. Okay? And if you have that for us, I'd like for you to read that for us. If you have it, my dear. Micah chapter I need it, chapter 1 and verse 16.
Make thee bold, and hold thee for thy delicate children. Enlarge thy boldness as the eagle, for they are gone into captivity from thee.
Now, that's an interesting passage, because if the child is bald, and the word here for birthright on the inside of it is korah, and the word is bakara, because the word bald is implicative that nothing in description was given to the birth child of the other twin, the second twin who came out of Rebekah, Jacob. There was no description. But they said all this stuff about Esau, who became Edom, who became hated because he hated the birthright that was his initially, because it is customary in their culture to give the birthright to the oldest child. Do you understand that? But we can imply that Yaqub, because of a lack of description, fits the description of the Hebrew writing bald of Korah, because Korah means bald. You got it here first. Korah means bald or clean or washed clean or shaved clean. Among Hebrews, it is clean. Yaqub is clean. Are y'all with me? Okay. Now, if we get to those passages that we asked for. Okay. You got Amos, chapter 8 and verse 10. Read verse 10.
And I will turn your feasts into mourning,
Uh-huh.
and all your songs into lamentation.
Now remember, he's speaking to the big brother, the hairy guy, who's supposed to be watching out for us. And instead of ridiculing and mocking us in our adversity, he's upset because of our royalty. He's upset, Yisrael, because you are an heir. He's upset because you break through all of the hard things in life and you appear to succeed no matter what. Now, my grandmother told me a story about 1929 of the Great Depression. And what she said was that at that time, there were people jumping off of buildings because they had lost all their accounts in banks, like the banks are closing now. And the women who had husbands who took their lives, many of them who lost their husbands and some of them just disappeared, gave the garments, the nice fine suits and clothes to those husbands. Now here, the men who did not struggle or work had these nice, beautiful, I guess, Edwardian suits and fat shoes and, Stetson hats and, silk ties and nice pocket squares and leather belts and, had all this stuff to a guy just because the banks folded during the Great Depression. They took themselves out. It's a sad picture. But look at what in the 1900s Israel received. Maybe some of their cars. Okay. Now read my son. Okay, that was it.
Of 10?
Yes.
No. And I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins, and baldness upon every head.
You're going to look like the promised son through suffering. You're going to look like the promised son through suffering. Read on.
And I will make it as the mourning of an only son, and the end thereof as a bitter day.
This is why Eliphaz, the Edomite, ran to Job. He had to go to these were men in the east. Yaqub was in the east. This time he was in the east. Okay, we're about to close. What do we look like? Okay, we're about to close. I like to have a signal. All right, how are we? Okay, I would like for someone, if you can, we've still got one more to go. I'm going to look at Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 15. The commandments tells us that we have a king. Our law, our statutes, it says they're not grievous. Yeshua said, if you love me, you keep my commandments, and my commandments are not grievous. In Revelation chapter 11. In Revelation chapter 11. So we're looking at the Bayet, the Kaf, the Scepter, the Resh, and the Hay, which each looks at that the right son, according to the birthright, got the right birthright. Got the birthright. Okay? Revelation chapter 11 and verse 15. We'll finish up next time. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 15. This is to you, O Israel.
And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever.
So, dear married couple who struggle in your relationship, dear child who struggles with that of your parent, you have a reigning covenant birthright in family. This is the son that comes out of the Bayat from the Shamayim. Here he takes with his Kaf, his hand, and reaches out for the scepter, and here he is with his hand with a ruling rod, according to the passage. And we all behold him. That is the Hay at the very end. So the numbers are Bayat, Kaf, Vav, which is 6, Resh, which is the number 200, Hay, which is the number 400. I'm sorry, Hay, got right here, because Yod, we don't have Yod. So here you see 200, 600. We're looking at the reigning king. You're looking at the reigning king. Yaqub's birthright foretold in the foreknowledge, magnifying the birthright, O Israel, because it's yours. That's my birthright. Why should I be in pain? Why should I prematurely die? Why should I be sick in a hospital? Why? I'm just asking a question for myself. No, this is for myself. I have a birthright. That birthright says, all in all, blessing. In every turn, blessing. In abundance, blessing. This is for you, a blessing. If you're a single mother, a blessing. If you're a single father, a blessing. If you are a struggling individual, a blessing. If you're dealing with an obstinate job situation, a blessing. If you're running your business and that's not doing up to par with the economy, a blessing. That's why I gave you the 1929 stock market thing. It's happening again. Happens every 50. This happens every 50 years. Just want to let you know. A blessing, O Israel. And his name was changed to protect the innocent. I'm so glad that you came to this platform today. I'd like for you to like and subscribe. I want you also to get in contact with Zayaner and look at all that goes on here in this area. And we bless and praise eternal Yah, our Abba. We have an intimate because of the Yeshua, our Mashiach, the anointed Christ, received, because without the Ruach, without receiving the Ruach, being of the flesh of Israel, here's your opportunity to have an intimacy on the inward parts of this birthright blessed covenant. This covenant was designed with you, O Israel, and me in mind. Be richly blessed and be abundantly supplied.